your hands together for Alde Lewis Jr. It was 1994, 10 o'clock in the morning, day before Thanksgiving. I was lying in bed. I get this phone call from New York. It's Freddie. You've got to come get our daughter. You've got to come get our daughter. Child Protective Services are on their way to pick her up. But I have her hidden over the Susans. I jump out of my bed and jump in the car and rush to New York. As soon as I get there, I make a beeline over the Susans who lived in Queens. She's telling me, Makeda told a counselor at school that her mother beats her. And it was true. Now I'm feeling guilty because I wasn't there to protect her. But at the same time, I'm relieved because I'm there now. Freddie and I make arrangements to meet up at the McDonald's the next day so they could say goodbye. It was a sad moment. Tears, uncertainty, nervousness. And then in a state of fogginess, we leave. On the ride to Flint, I look in the back seat and my daughter is about to turn 11, she's asleep. Oh, I'm nervous. Here I am, 41 years old, long-time bachelor, performer on Broadway. I ain't never raised no child in my life. So what I'm going to do? I get to Flint. Start doing the mechanical things that a parent does. Put her in school, buying her clothes, teaching her how to ride a bike, because she didn't get a chance to do that while in New York. Then had to go and buy, you know, feminine stuff. Boy, I'm so glad that my mom and my sister, my cousin Sharon, helped me out with that front. Thank God. Soon after that, Sharon agreed to take her to Sunday services because she's a pastor. Now I got everything covered. Seems like everything's going quite well. 4 months later, I get a phone call from the school principal, asking me to come down for a face-to-face talk. So I go. She says, McKay's been passing out dollar bills to her classmates to the tune of $250. What? Hold up. I'm stunned. She comes home. She walks through the door. I ask her, where in the world you get that kind of money from to be passing out to folks? She said, I found it. You found it? Where? Grandma's purse? Oh. After the whooping and the crying ceased, that's when I found out that Freddie, when she would get upset with her mother and they would go by and visit, she had my daughter act like as a lookout while she went through her mother's purse. And when it backfired on her, And Makeda started stealing the same fashion from her. She beat her. This is not what the bargain was supposed to be for. Now, I got to reprogram my child on values and morals. Gotta hide my money. You better believe I made sure she wasn't visiting folks' homes just so that I could save herself from herself. I would continue giving her punishments until I was certain that she had stopped stealing. I was so glad Shan was taking her to church, because about a year later, it wasn't nothing I said, it wasn't nothing I did. She just all of a sudden just stopped stealing on her own. She was 12. During that same time period, she would bring, classwork home. Now, she didn't like to be corrected, critiqued, or judged on her work, not even by teachers. I would walk into her room, and she would turn her assignments over so I couldn't see it. She did that enough times, it started to piss me off. Here I am trying to help her, and she don't want no help. 2 months later, I asked her about a report card. She tells me, they haven't sent it out yet, but see, I know different. Others are receiving their report cards in the mail. A week and a half prior before I asked the question. So I put her on a 2-week punishment. Going over some of the math problems she was doing, found out my baby didn't know how to do simple subtraction problems correctly. It had a nerve to copy an attitude because I recognized it. So I started showing her how the errors that she was making in her calculations. Then to put further on in terms of the punishment, I made her study and learn the math portion of the ACT, SAT, PSAT. College preparatory review and exam. She was 12. Starting with basic algebra. Made sure she showed me every step and minute step that it takes to solve a problem. She thought I was being mean. When the 2 weeks was up, she not only understood the concepts, but she was retaining all of it. She was doing so well and accomplishing so much, I decided to extend the length of the punishment. Just so that I could find out what this girl was able to absorb. When the punishment was up, she was calculating and solving the most difficult, intricate, complex, college-level algebraic expressions that there are in her head. Oh yeah, the girl was bad. After she saw how I was proud of the abilities that she had, she started to warm up some to me. Still had a little tinge of that disconnect. But finally, after 8 months, being with me, I think I could relax now, some. So I started doing me. When I started playing me some golf, doing that summer. Makeda noticed I wasn't spending as much time giving her that attention. So she asked if she could play. I said, here, take these clubs my mother used to play with. Gave her a plastic ball and a tee. Going out in the yard and just try to hit the ball. She goes out there just to swinging. I mean, really swinging for 4 hours. to the point where I started feeling sorry for the grass, for the ball, but most importantly, the club head she was using, because when she would get frustrated, she would swing so hard that if it was a real ball, it would be hurting. And that swing had a little taste of anger in it. So I said, you know what? This is a good thing. Because whatever my baby is feeling internally, by being separated from her mother, but can't express it, this is the opportunity to be able to release and exorcise that pent-up anger that she had in her, just by pounding a golf ball. So I went out there and started showing her the proper technique to being able to hit the ball. Then I put in some golf programs. Soon after, a professional PGA instructor took notice of her and asked if he could work with her for free. Oh, that's a game. By the time she was 16 years old, and after all the tournaments that we drove to, she ended up winning the National Junior Golf Invitational Championship. To the tune where she received a full ride athletics scholarship to Bethune-Cookman. On that day that I had to drive her down, when I got ready to leave, I cried. See, because it was like a mourning spirit deep down in my soul, as if a death had occurred. But for the first time, I understood what my daughter must have felt the day she came to live with me after having saying goodbye to her mother at that McDonald's. January comes around. My mother dies unexpectedly in my arms. I'm devastated. Makeda is crying profusely. Then I find out that Makeda and Freddie not even talking. Makeda's refusing to allow her mother, refusing to accept the phone calls of her mother. So I have a talk with her and say, baby, you don't want to do that? Because you don't know what's going to happen sometime in the near future, where it'll be the last time that you're able to say something to your mother. At the end of that year, at the end of that year, we have a discussion. And we decide that she would transfer to Texas Southern University in Houston. As soon as she gets on campus, she becomes she makes her mark as being one of the premier golfers in the conference. She turns 19. And almost to the day that my mother passed, we become informed that Freddie had died of cancer. And we didn't even know she was even sick. Flew to New York, cry, grieve, and mourn. Makeda pretends she's strong. Then I fly her back to school, myself back to Flint. For that month and a half or so, we take turns calling each other just to make sure the other is doing fine. Soon after that, my daughter goes missing. And nobody knew where she was. Not even family. So I'm sitting there thinking, what do I do? I know I'll go down there and find her. But that's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Then all of a sudden a spirit came over me into my mind and said, just be still. Let her be. Because she needs time as she purges that unbelievable and unimaginable sense of guilt and pain. That same spirit told me, I'm going to use this time to bring her back into my presence. If you go down there and just so happen to find her, all you're going to do is get in my way. I took heed to that spirit. It wasn't easy. 2 months go by. Still missing. 4 months, not a word. 5th month, I started playing a lot of golf just to ease my mind, because that's where I could at least walk and think and talk to God, hoping he was hearing me. 6th month, I'm out on the golf course and this guy named Cliff catches up with me and we start playing together and start talking. He decides to invite me to his church for service. I tell him what all the stuff that's going on with me. I was 12 years old the last time I was a member of a church because of the stuff that I was seeing. But I said to him, but you know what? Invite me to your Bible study. I'll come to that. So I did. And for about 3 weeks, the subject matter that came up where the pastor would allow for members of the congregation to answer questions, just so he could gauge where they are. The subject matter was on the Trinity. For 3 weeks, none of the answers satisfied my spirit in terms of understanding. So I decided to go home and ask. I prayed and asked for myself. Could you give me some kind of clarity on this? All of a sudden, the spirit comes to my head again. But this time, it's different. He says to me, what do you receive or attain when you read a book? I said, knowledge. He said, that's right. Because the knowledge of me is my son. Hence the word. Oh, I said, oh my goodness. I started having these revelations after revelations after revelation to the point where I was starting to become so overwhelmed that I couldn't sleep for a whole week. When that week was over, I had my answers to a myriad of questions dealing with life, but not my daughter. 8th month comes. I get a phone call. It's Makeda. She says, Dad, that feels so good. All I did was stand still and listen. She tells me, I'm fine and I'm okay. And for you not to worry. Then she tells me that she had joined a small congregation where the church was held in a house and that she felt safe. Because it reminded her of when Sharon would take her to church. And the intimate atmosphere that it had. What a relief. We talk often. 2 to 5 hours a clip. That journey made both of us better. We're closer, even though she lives in Texas. She's 29 now. Married 5.5 years. 2 boys, 4 and 2. She recently put herself back into school full-time at TSU. Junior status. First semester junior status in the School of Business Accounting and Management, Dean's List. You know, my baby hasn't played golf in 10 years. In fact, she don't even know where her golf clubs are. But yet, she has an encounter with her golf coach, former golf coach. And he hadn't seen her since the day she disappeared, and offers her a position as the assistant to the head coach of the women's golf team. So that he could help subsidize the cost of her education. Oh, God is good. Myself, after giving up my Broadway career to take care of my mother, and then to take care of Makeda, I received a phone call from Goodspeed Opera House producers requesting that I recreate the character Mr. Magic's in the hit show, My One and Only. They called me and they said, you know, we feel that you're the only person in the United States that's living that can bring the style, sophistication, and especially the feet in order to give this character its justice. Gregory Hines, Sammy Davis Jr., but the greatest one of them all, Charles Honey Coles, my mentor. Honey Coles was the one that actually received the Tony Award for that very role, but they're all gone. I was not expecting that call. By being a father, caretaker, and golf, I accepted. They gave me star treatment. The show opened, rave reviews in 80 publications. When the show closed, I get a call from the Gershwin, George and Ira Gershwin estate, to let me know that they would like to give me an opportunity of co-producership if I can show the capabilities of being able to raise a significant amount of the funds towards the Broadway run of My One and Only. Life, you just never know what it has for you. I'd like to leave this with you. The ultimate inheritance that a father can leave for his child is the key to peace of mind. But in order to pass that on, you've got to have the key yourself. So I say to you, go in peace and not in pieces. For the Spirit that guides me moves me. Thank you.
Alde Lewis Jr.